Hello, my name is Mary, and this is my Flosstube. It's called A Mary Stitcher, and I'm also A Mary Stitcher on Instagram. So if this is your first time stopping by, thank you. I appreciate that. And for those of you who are returning viewers, I really am very thankful for you. Thanks so much. Today is August the 24th. It's Sunday, and this is Flosstube number 11. So, moving right along. Anyway, today I have got some FFOs. Big change for me. I'm not usually much of an FFO girl, but today is the day. I was going through so many of my stitched items, and like everybody else, you have that under the bed box, or in my case, it's the bench in the dining room that has storage in it. And we all have so many things, and I am the very definition of a process stitcher, which is someone who just loves the act of stitching. I will stitch all kinds of things on all kinds of fabrics, and what happens to it after the fact for most of my life hasn't been that critical. It was just the act of stitching and the comfort I took and the enjoyment I took in picking out what to stitch and then going through the process of stitching it. Don't get me wrong, I love the finished products, but taking them from stitch finish to a completely, fully finished object has never been a huge priority. Part of that is because I started stitching in the days when pretty much all we ever did with our stitches was frame them. Everybody got everything framed, and it was matted or double matted, and there was just, it was kind of all the same. It was very cost prohibitive in those days. We didn't have some of the options that we have now. So that was never the priority. The priority for me has always been actually stitching. So to FFO is a good thing for me. So today I have 4 FFOs. Well, 3 and a bit. First of all, I have this one, and it says trick or treat, but actually this is a freebie, and it started out, I think the actual title of it is Smell My Feet, believe it or not. And this one is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna draw a blank on who it was. This may be Not Forgotten Farms, but I can't swear to that. Anyway, I stitched it on an 18 count Aida. I could not tell you which one it is, and I changed the colors. I gave my witch's legs striped socks that were black and green, and then I did some purple and black and green all the way around the edges. So I like it. There were some other stitches that came out around the same time that were, one was a witch's boot, and one was a witch's nose. And I feel as if there was a third one. I'm sorry, I can't think of all of them. And they all had some kind of a saying. But those were a little bigger than what I was looking for, so I was super excited to find this, and the fact that it was a freebie was so much the better. I'm not sure if this is still available as a free chart. I think it probably is, though, because it wasn't that long ago. I think I stitched this about, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Anyway, so I finished it with it as a pillow with some fabric. This is some J. Wecker Frisch fabric from an older collection of hers, but I loved it. It has that kind of spooky colorway, but the flowers make it nice too. And then I put some Lady Dot chenille pom-pom trim around the edges. So that is FFO number 1. Then we have FFO number 2. This one's another pillow. I'm pretty sure this is a Bent Creek. Please don't make me swear to that. But there it is. I don't know why I can't get it to focus. Sorry. Anyway, this is just a cute little chart, and I finished it in a pillow finish, put some chenille on the, not chenille, I'm sorry, some of the velveteen that Lady Dot creates. sells. Lois does great things. Her velveteen is beautiful, and it's 100% cotton velveteen, which is really nice not to have the synthetics. So again, I think I did this about 2 years ago, maybe a little more, but that's number 2, which just went on the floor. My cat will be over to retrieve it in a moment, I'm sure. All right, this next one is the partial, because it's kind of done and it's kind of not done. This was a project at last year's Jingle Ball. And this was from Hello from Liz Matthews, and this is the Santa's Night Tree. And I know that this has come out, I think it's maybe fairly recently, that it's come out as a standalone pattern that's available. And the reason I call this a partial finish is I don't really have a base yet. I have my stick for the trunk of the tree, but I do not have an actual base, so I just have it sitting in a flower frog right now. These old vintage flower frogs are great. Anyway, I'm sure that there's probably online instructions on how to finish this that come with the pattern that Liz has now released, has got in wide release for everybody. What I did with mine is I just took some Christmassy fabric and put it on the back, followed Liz's instructions on how to put it together, stitched on a little of this kind of vintagey looking trim, and there it is. So I'm late to the party as far as finishing these goes, but I'm happy to have it done. And what I will do to have it finished is I think I'm going to cut a wider, we have some branches down in our yard, so I think I'm going to get a wider branch, drill a hole in it, and then I'll permanently glue this little trunk into it. And I think that'll look good, probably bring it up to about this height away from there. So yeah, anyway, I'm glad to have that done. And it was really a fun stitch, actually. Stitching the plaid, this little plaid down at the bottom, took a little concentration, took a little time, but the payoff is great. It just looks so nice. And then I'm sure that I sort of staggered these deer a little differently than the way that they were intended to be on the pattern, but that's just what I do. So there we go. All right, so that's the bit. So now we've done 2 and a bit, and now this is not wanting to stand up. Oh, come on, friend. Okay, well, I guess I better get that base going sooner than later. And this is my last one. This is, I believe, from Pine Needles, if I remember correctly. And I couldn't tell you the name of it, but I just loved this little turkey with his funny aqua scarf flying in the breeze, being a very cool turkey. Now, the finish on this one is not a pillow, and a lot of people like to do flat folds because they're simple to store, for especially for holiday pieces or seasonal pieces. It's really easy to store flat folds because you just take them, lay them down flat, and put them away. And a flat fold, if you don't know, is typically consists of 3 different pieces of mat board. And one is for the object, one I think lays flat, or gosh, now I can't even think of how it goes. Anyway, multiple pieces of mat board. You end up using a little bit more fabric to put them together. And, or no, I know what it is. You have the front and the back of the main piece. Then the second piece of mat board, you have to cover that with fabric as well. So it just uses a lot of resources. I have finished that I jokingly refer to as the lazy woman's flat fold. And it's something that I saw another Flosstuber do. I don't remember who it was. This is not my idea, but boy, I have taken it and run with it. So here's what you've got. You've got your stitch. You've got your backing fabric. In this case, I used some more velveteen. And what you do is you put it on. Where is it? Here we go. One of these little plastic or acrylic picture frames. So it stands up. I'm sure that's not going to show on camera. So it stands up all on its own. And these are so budget friendly. You can have one for every finish and then just kind of cradle them on top of each other. Or you can have one in every size, and then when the season comes around and you want to put your little turkey piece on, kind of squidge him on. I made him a little tight. Come on, turkey leg. Sure, sure. Now I've done it. Oh my goodness, come on now. Well, this is not my finest moment as a hostess. Here we go. There we go. Just took a minute. I like it to fit snug so it won't flop around, but you just slide it. Here's the bottom. You just slide it in there. All you've done is make a little sleeve. You leave the bottom open. Now in my case, what I do is I line the front and back so that when I sew it, I have no rough edges. I have the lining piece and the regular. And you could, that lining piece in this case could be some fusible that you put on to hold your stitches in place. I just like the idea of a lining piece because it makes it tougher for pushing it, pulling it on and taking it. It just gives it a little added strength. So that is my Lazy Girls flat fold. So that's number 3. And then the half was the tree. So that's it, some FFOs. I would feel more accomplished if I had done more than just this many FFOs this year. Last year, I decided I was going to do 24 FFOs in 2024, and I made it to 19, I think. Didn't quite make it. And then I sort of toyed with the idea this year, but I said, no, I'm just going to let it happen organically. So I don't think I'm going to have 25 finishes between now and the end of the year. Stranger things have happened, though. It's possible. Anyway, that's it for finishes. I have no stitch finishes today, so that's fine. But what I do have is a new start. And this year I haven't had a tremendous number of new starts, at least not for me. And the other night, again, I was looking through some things, and when I was going through my finished items, trying to decide what I was going to finish, kind of get a hierarchy for what order I wanted to do them in, which ones I wanted to do in pillows, which ones I wanted to frame, all of that. So I stumbled across the beginnings of my 12 Days of Christmas from Hello, from Liz Matthews. And what I'm doing with mine, and I guess I'm going to show you, I'm going around in circles. Anyway, this was the start, the 4th day of Christmas. And what I'm doing with these, of course you see you can do them in the tree finish, much the same as the Santa's Night tree, and you can finish them that way. And I think it would be really cool to have all of them in tree form, say scattered along a mantelpiece or something like that. Would be really fun. But at the time I started these, I just felt like I wanted to have one big piece that could sit on my mantle. And so what I decided to do is do 6 over 6 and put them on a long piece of fabric, run them 1 through 6 and then 7 through 12, and that would be it. So what I've done is, in order to make it not too huge, I have stitched it on what some people would call 22 count Aida. Technically speaking, it's hardanger fabric, which is 22 count Aida basically. And here is where I stand so far on the full piece, which is I tend to stitch right to left. So what I've got here is the goose a-laying, the 6th goose, and I have the 5 block, the 5 golden rings, and then I'm beginning, this is the beginnings of the 4 calling birds. So what we have is the little bird right here. I've just gotten a little start on him. And you can see that the colors are all going to look great together. Now each piece, each chart If you're doing it in the, here we go. If you're doing it in this format, there's a bottom border and a top border. And since I'm doing all mine together, what I've done is on the top ones, I'm finishing the top border for each one according to what its pattern shows. And then for the ones on the bottom, I'll show the bottom border. So there really will be a border all the way across and all the way across the bottom. But you can see that each one will be the border that goes with that chart rather than one long continuous border. So I just think that's kind of a fun way to get that interest of the different border for each chart that Liz designed for us and make it a part of the piece without having to stitch the top and the bottom of each one, because the orientation is going to be just all the pieces put together. I figured that was a good way to have a little bit of all of it, but not have to stitch quite as much. Anytime I can edit a piece down just a little bit, it means it's just much more chance of me getting it done sooner and ultimately being able to finish it. Now, once I have those 12 designs all done, I am going to make probably a framed piece, but I'm going to make it something that can live on the mantle of the fireplace during the holiday season, and I think that'll be great. Now, that's it for new starts. Not surprising. I'm trying not to start too many pieces. My goal is to work through some older whips, and the only reason that I started this is because the 12 days, I don't really count it as a whip. Each one I sort of treat individually. And so I feel like it's a little bit of both. It's kind of a whip, but that's a new start that's going to advance it forward and give me a chance of getting it done sooner. I figured at the pace I was going, doing one a year, I really don't want to wait 10 more years for that project to be done. So I decided I better get a move on. And that's what I'm doing. Now, for whips. You guys are getting sick of this one, I know you are, but this one's going to be done this year. This is my #1 goal because it's my oldest whip, and that is M.H. Smith, 1890. And as you can see, she's huge. She's a big girl. But my edited down version is going to make her a little more manageable, and hopefully I've got her to a point where I can bring it in by the end of the year. So this is what it's supposed to look like. And there we go. Too many things. There we go. And here's what she really looks like. Okay. See, I think I've got it up. There we go. Oh my gosh, I'm having a tough time with this. All right, so here's what we've got. We've got the majority of the alphabets, at least all the ones that were somewhat unique. I've now done the squirrel's tail, some more of the leaves and acorns. I've got the little doodads around the squirrel. Now these were two, showing this backwards. Oh Lord, I'm showing you the most awful, horrible back ever. Great, way to go. All right, I'm not going to start over again just because I was a fool. So now you've all seen my terrible carried over back. But anyway, there we go. That's what you're looking for. I've gotten the border above and below the squirrel. I've gotten the 4 little doodads at the corner. For the bottom ones, I just took 2 motifs that were elsewhere because in the original, the squirrel doesn't have anything on the bottom part. At least not part of the box he's there for. So I've also put my name, which is M.H. Smith Peterson, and M.H. Smith's name with her year, 1890, and mine 2025. So I've committed myself to getting this done by the end of the year. The good news is all I have to do is another leaf and an acorn or 2 here, and then this whole section will be done. And then the center section. Now, to cut down the amount of stitching I toyed with the idea of putting a verse in there. I'm not a big one for a lot of, some of the schoolgirl Sanfords were very religious. You had Bibles and crosses and all that, which is great. But for my walls, one of the things that I want to do is have it be, I'll have a piece of poetry or something like that. And I thought about putting the verse about treating the stranger with kindness, because by doing so you could be entertaining angels that you didn't know you were doing. So I thought about that. But then with all those alphabets, that's a whole lot of letters. So what I've decided to do is go ahead and stick with my original vision, which is to take, you can see there's a whole bunch of little different bands here. And what I've done is I've kind of charted it out, picked the bands I like the best, and that center section now, which is a little wider than the one here because I've changed the orientation to bring the alphabets out further, and to make room for the names to be side by side. So what I'll do is in the center between the flowers and the squirrel, I will go ahead and put some of these bands, not all of them obviously, but some of the bands, and then we'll be finished. And down here is where I took this is where I got the cat to go down underneath the squirrel. And I did do the little unicorn and lion, I think it's a lion, which is kind of a present on a lot of British samplers. So that is moving along. I think I do have a fighting chance of getting it done by the end of the year. I stitched on it quite a bit since my last Flosstube, just because I needed to make sure I got myself close enough that I wouldn't come up short at the end of the year. So I've now, instead of doing one red thread a day, I'm doing 2 or 3, just to be sure that I get close enough to finish it by the end of the year. Okay, next whip. The next whip will be my next oldest whip, actually, which is from Modern Folk Embroidery. This was the 2020 stitch along, but I had not found my way back to stitching at that point, so I didn't even know Modern Folk Embroidery existed. This one I'm personalizing a little bit, like so many of the things that I do, and so it's a little bit slow going because I have to keep charting and recharting things to make sure I don't mess up. One of the things this chart has on it are a fair number of houses. And you can see on this one, oops, down at the bottom, one of the little houses is now in, and I changed that around a little bit to look like a cottage that we have here in town where my son lives. And so what I've done since my last Flosstube is, I think I did I did a little bit of the heart inside the main border, the small heart down here. Again, I finished the cottage and started on this part here. So it's not a ton of work. Like I say, I really spent a lot of time on the red sampler, so I need to kick it in gear and do a little bit more on this one, because this is the next one to become my daily piece once I finish the Bristol. So that is that whip. Now here's a whip we haven't seen in a while. This was called for Whip Go, and that is Halloween Hijinks. And this is a Carolyn Manning piece, the first Carolyn Manning piece I've done. I think a group of people are working on this one right now. In fact, I feel like there's a group that's starting a SAL where they're trying to do 1 square a day and see if they can't knock it out that way, which is great. The one thing I would say about that is that these tiny little squares are 11 by 11 each. And unlike some of the Carolyn Manning pieces you see where there's color changes for little blocks, in those typically the entire block is one color. In this case, you've got little tiny pictures and polka dots and stripes and cats and aliens and witches and every kind of thing. Not to mention the border, which is candy corn and witches' hats and ghosts all the way around, and then some little pumpkins at the corner with vines. So there is a lot of color changing and a lot of stopping and starting. I love this chart though, it's terrific. But what I did, knowing myself, knowing me as I do, I knew that this was going to take me forever because I'm not a stop and starty kind of person. I do a lot of monochromatic. I make more mistakes when I make more color changes, and so I have to go a little slower to make sure I don't mess something up. But what I decided to do, because I love the chart so much, I took a really close look and I looked and I noticed that a lot of the patterns or a lot of the squares are things like stripes or checkerboard or kind of a stripe or some squares with boxes and stuff. So there's some of those spaces that I really loved. And then there were some that were not as important to me. So what I decided to do, ooh, glary, there we go, that's a little better. What I decided to do was look through all of these motifs and see if there wasn't a way that I could do what I do, edit down and make it a little smaller to still give myself the enjoyment of stitching it, to give the finished product the essence of Carolyn Manning's design, but help me keep my sanity and have a hope of finishing this in my lifetime. So that's what I'm doing. So what I did was I took a photocopy of this cover sheet. So I'm not showing you a pattern, I'm just showing you what I did to this picture. And what I did was I Frankensteined it. Did a little cutting, a little pasting. I took squares and I shuffled them around, and I still have like the cute ghost here. Mine still has that big tree pattern there. There's one where there's a little spider coming down. So all the ones that were multiple blocks that sort of tied together or had something really interesting going on, I kept all of those. But I just took out some of the ones that were more just there for texture and interest, because quite frankly, this has enough texture and interest for me. I think it's going to be a really easily frameable size. I figured it out, but I can't tell you what it is right now off the top of my head. But literally, even though there's still all this stuff going on, I have shrunken the number of squares nearly in half. I know it doesn't really look like that, but truly, I have removed almost half of the squares. And I still have what I really think is a fantastic design. I mean, Carolyn Manning is great. You know, there's not a wrong box in here. I just didn't need so many boxes. So that's why I have boiled it down a little bit. And so the result that we're coming up with, as you can see, it's not going to be enormous because you've got the candy cane border here. And although I don't have the border in over here, the inside, this is it. It's 9 across by 9 down, and then the border. So you can see I'm, getting to have all the fun of doing all those little designs, but sorry about the lighting. Every time the curtains move, my camera tries to adjust the lighting because there's a little more light coming in from the open window. Sorry about that. Anyway, so here it is. I'm having a great time with it. I'm taking my time, but this is one of my whip go pulls, so I have one more day, or well, tonight I'll stitch on it and then move on to my next whip go pull, because I'm trying to stay caught up on whip go. And I've been doing okay, but need to get with it a little bit more. Anyway, so isn't that cute though? I really love it. I love the eyeball down here. That's really funny. And then the little bats on the corners, that's super cool. So again, I'm having all the fun of stitching all those cute little intricate designs, but I'm doing it my way, as I do with so many things. Doing it my way. Right or wrong, I'll live with the consequences, but that's what we've got. Okay, now, I think this may be my last whip for this time, because I spent so much time on the Bristol. I apologize, this is going to crinkle. Sorry, y'all. Sorry. Some Mirabilia, and it's retired Mirabilia, so I try to keep the chart in its plastic, and then I work off of a working copy. Anyway, this is, ooh, lordy. There, that's a little better. This is Shimmering Mermaid. This is a Mirabilia chart. I'm trying to see what year. 2003. 2003. Okay, well, she's not young, but she's beautiful. Anyway, this one is what I'm working on. I started this on my birthday in 2024. 2024. Started it on my birthday. And since I have two Mirabilias going right now, I told myself I don't get to start another one until I finish one of the previous ones. That way, I focus, focus, focus. But this, as Miras go, this one's got a lot of, oh goodness, sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. Sorry with the crinkles. Okay, there she is with the plastic on. But if you can see, probably not here, there's all kinds of little, kind of a harlequin pattern, 3 or 4 different colors, if not more, in her mermaid tail. So she has got a lot of, again, that stoppy-starty thing that I'm always afraid I'm going to mess something up. But what I did since my last time was I started, last time I had a little bit of her face in, so I brought the skin down to start her arm, and that's about it. Again, I have to go slower on these because there's so much going on. I don't want to mess it up. But here, let me see if I can't get this. There we go. That's a little closer. So, I have no idea. My screen grab's probably just going to be my hands and a giant piece of fabric. Okay, so that is the last of the whips. Now, for those people who like to see what new goodies their Flosstube friends have acquired, this is the moment. Not very much this time. I'm always looking for linen, good colors, good counts. So I had an order from Farm Girl Dry Goods. Woo, okay, massive glare. There we go, Farm Girl Dry Goods. And I have found that I'm able to pick up colors that I really like from her. And in this case, what we've got is Glacier by Picture This Plus. And I'm trying to see. This is a little bit deeper blue than the one that the Shimmering Mermaid was stitched on. And that one is called Tidal, Tidal. This is Glacier. It's a little less aqua, a little more bluey, and it's a little darker than it's showing right there. Yeah, no, not getting a very good read on this color today. But it's a lovely piece of fabric. And I picked it out, and at the moment that I ordered it, I had a chart in mind, and of course, I've slept since then, so I don't recall what that was. But I've got the fabric. I'm sure I'll be going through something here soon and I'll realize what it was, but that is a beautiful piece. It's 36 count. I don't think I got it for another mermaid. I suppose that's possible. Then the other one I got, again, it's Picture This Plus, and this one is Legacy. So it's got, no. There we go. So good modeling, but not really super high contrast. It's enough to be interesting. This particular one I got thinking that I might do the Leela Studio Winter Quaker, and I got this one, and I also in that same order got maybe Heartland. And so whichever of the two is darker is probably the one I'll use because I want the snowflakes to show up. You know, the constant challenge with Christmas is what color is going to not look too brown but is also going to allow the snowflakes to show. And then the last thing I got from Farm Girl Dry Goods is this little chart, this chart from Little Robin, slightly spooky. If you watch Tara Sullivan, Sully Stitches, she did these not too long ago, and they're just as cute as can be. It's actually, I think, the first thing I've gotten from Little Robin, and I liked these sets, but I always worry, am I going to come up with, am I going to have too many pillows? I have a lot of Halloween, la 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 la, you know how that goes, second guessing yourself. I've started more and more, being a stitcher of a certain age, I've started to think about where these are going when I'm finished with them. Is it something that I will put out and enjoy? Is it something I will hang on the wall all the time? Not necessarily this one, but with any chart I look at now, I try to assess, am I going to finish it? Am I going to get diverted by another squirrel and never pick it up because I've started 87 other things? So I'm really trying with my charts to make sure there's something about it that either is captivating enough, or I have enough room with my other things that I have to put out that it's not going to just be an ocean of things that all seem the same. So this one I like. My favorite one, of course, is the Eek Eek with the cats. And who knows? Maybe I'll do one of them. Maybe I'll do two of them. Somehow I don't see myself doing all because I've got a lot of Halloween. But I don't know. I may have so much fun doing them because I will say, Tara zipped through these. Of course, Tara is so amazing. She is fast. Oh my gosh, that woman can stitch fast, and her stitches look so beautiful. I confess I'm envious. Anyway, she did inspire me to pick this up, and I was able to get it from Farm Girl Dry Goods when I was ordering my fabrics. So my little fabrics got to ride with the chart. And that, as they say, is that. I don't have anything else for you today. The next time we get together for Flosstube 12, it will be September. Wow, it's wild. August has gone quickly. The summer seems like it's flown by. I think it's because it started late for us here in this part of Pennsylvania. We had kind of a wet, cold spring, so summer seemed like it came, and now it looks like it may be headed out. So we'll see. That's all I have for today, and I thank you very much for stopping by. I would really appreciate it if you enjoyed your time, if you would like. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. It helps me to reach more people, helps my channel grow, which is always a lot of fun for me. I mean, initially I started doing this thinking, well, this is just for me to keep track of my stitches. It seemed like a fun thing to do, but I'm getting some more followers, which is great, and that's always fun. The more of us there are to enjoy ourselves, the better. So thank you for stopping by, and I will see you next time.